Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this moment, my friends, I'm going to be testing the Asus ROG Ally in Forza Horizon 5. Now, as usual, I am using the ROG dock to provide power to the ROG Ally while we do this, and that's connected to the external capture card, so we don't really lose any performance by recording the actual gameplay, you know? So that's why I'm not really having a camera pointed directly at the ROG Ally, and we can see everything on screen crispy as I like it. Moving on, this one is the Ryzen Z1 Extreme version of the Ally, and I have it on the default settings for the RAM and VRAM, so that means that we have 12 gigabytes of RAM and 4 gigabytes of the 16 gigs of RAM dedicated to VRAM for the GPU. So let's close Task Manager. Right here you can see all of the GPU specs here in Tech PowerUps GPU Z, and MSI Afterburner is there as usual for the on-screen display. Alright, let's go over the settings first. I'm starting at 1080p resolution using MSAA set to 2 times. No upscaling right here, it's not really needed in this particular title, and high settings preset, and with these settings we are getting around 70 or 60 to 70 frames per second. I'm going to start counting the FPS as well. Here we go, got the averages and the 1% lows on screen, and look at that. That's an absolutely smooth experience, but I'm not sure if it's gonna stay like that for a while, because as you play through this game it starts utilizing more VRAM and RAM, and I am scared that the 16 gigabytes of shared VRAM and RAM won't be enough for this game for smooth gameplay all of the time. But so far so good. We still haven't had any warning messages like low memory warnings and stuff, but I really think we will get those in just a little bit. So I'm just gonna keep on playing right here, go to the city, which is more intensive, especially for the VRAM, and as you can see we're getting like 60 FPS right here. Now this feels really good, honestly. Also, I forgot to show you, but we are utilizing the turbo mode right here, 30 watts, okay? So it's best case scenario, if you're playing on battery, the turbo mode will be 25 watts, a little bit of a stutter right there, okay, but still no RAM or VRAM warnings, so I guess it's still fine, but it's right on the edge, guys. Like VRAM usage, the actual usage is at 3.7 gigabytes, and it's allocating the full 4 gigabytes basically, and the VRAM, oh my god! Alright, now we lost our mirrors and everything is wrecked. Unfortunately, a little bit of a stutter there again, but overall it's a very smooth experience, you know. It's definitely super playable, especially on a handheld device like this one. Very enjoyable as well, and it looks awesome at 1080p high settings, okay? Very well optimized, this game. But as I was saying, the VRAM is kind of maxing out that allocation, but thankfully the actual usage is just below 4 gigabytes. We gotta see it in the city still, but I think it's gonna be fine. The RAM, though, it's at 11.6, so it's right on the edge, you know? Again, it's still good. I'm still gonna try it for a little bit of a stutter right there, and another one right there. Okay, so this might be it, my friends. Yep, okay, another stutter. That's not normal for Forza Horizon 5, alright? I've tested this game a lot of times with a ton of different GPUs, and these bigger stutters only happen whenever you run out of VRAM. I usually don't run out of RAM as well, because I have like 32 gigabytes on my test systems, but it's possible that it is also running out of RAM in this one. That's why I'd love to have seen this system right here running 32 gigabytes of RAM instead of 16, because you gotta share those 16. It's not like you have 16 gigabytes of RAM and then some dedicated VRAM. No, in reality you have 12 gigabytes of RAM. So this is what happens, guys. The RAM usage went down because it already swapped a ton of things into the SSD. That's why it's been stuttering quite a lot. And it dropped our 1% lows into the 30s, unfortunately. So yeah, for longer sessions of Forza Horizon 5, like 10, we've been playing for 10 minutes, I guess, or so, it's gonna start stuttering like crazy. Thankfully, though, it gets 69 FPS on average, which is very, very good. So it's still playable, guys, okay? But I just feel like it would be a much better experience if only they had put at least 20 gigabytes on this thing. Anyway, I'm gonna stop it right there, guys, and we're gonna need to drop some settings. Although we wouldn't need to do that if we had enough RAM, because the averages were actually quite good, right? Let's do this with medium textures now and leave the rest of the settings on high, because it can handle it, right? It has the horsepower to do so, just not the memory to do so.
Option highlighted.
Shut up, Bob.
Continue.
Shut up, Bob.
Option 1 of
Shut
3.
up, Bob.
Control
Shut up,
type.
Bob.
Button.
Please. Thank you.
Loading.
No, shut up. Every single time he gets me with the loading. Oh my gosh. Alright, here we have it. This is medium textures now. The VRAM usage went down by a little bit, as you can see. I'm going to start counting our FPS after I show you this. We're still on turbo mode as well. Okay, here we go. Started counting the frames. And once we achieve stability and the smooth frame time graph basically all of the time, I will also show you the 15-watt performance mode as well as the 10-watt silent mode on this thing, and those will be the same on battery as well, by the way. I can't really test the 25-watt turbo mode on battery because, well, I'm using a capture card for this. Anyway, right now everything is very smooth still, as it was on high settings. The weather is a little bit different though, so there's that. I'm not sure how it affects the frame rate, probably not by much. I have tested this game for a really long time with a ton of GPUs again, and yeah, weather changes things slightly, but at these FPS, not really. RAM usage is also a lot lower right now. Interesting. I wonder if it swapped some things already into the SSD, or if it just went down because it went down. It's not really utilizing as much memory at the moment. But hey, as of now, it's been smooth, my friends. So let's see if in the city it starts stuttering. We got a little stutter right there. Not great, but not terrible. Another one. Oh, come on, mate. Do not start stuttering like that. Another one. Gosh. Now, this is still playable. Only like 3 or 4 stutters here and there. It's not the end of the world, right? It's way better than recent titles anyways. But the thing is, if we had enough memory, it would have been much better. Again, 0 stutters, right? Ah, boy. And right there at the end of the tunnel, it dropped down to like 50 FPS. Not the problem, actually. Like, in a handheld, again, this is absolutely a great experience still. 1% lows at the end of high settings with high textures were at like 38, remember that? So it definitely did stutter quite a bit. Right now they're at 51, which is actually accurate to what we saw, because at the end of the tunnel it dropped to 50 FPS. 69 FPS average, by the way, so that's exactly the same averages as we got on high settings. That means that the textures don't really affect performance, just the VRAM consumption, and yeah, it's much more stable, I think, as you can see. Damn it! I'm not really doing the exact same path here, but you can see that the VRAM allocation is not hitting like 3.9 or 4 gigabytes of VRAM anymore, or actually 3,900 plus megabytes. It's at 3,850 something megabytes right there, and the usage is a little bit lower as usual. Even going through these bushes and trees right here, we saw a bunch of stuttering issues previously, and it's not a problem. So I think what was happening on the high settings, even though the usage, the VRAM usage itself wasn't maxing out, it was still swapping some things that should have been on VRAM into the RAM, causing the RAM to go up to 11.5 gigabytes or even more sometimes, and starting to swap into the SSD, and that was just not enough, okay? So the 16 gigabytes total weren't enough for high settings with high textures, but here on high with medium textures, everything is okay. So we found playability, my friends. Let's see how it does in a little race now. Alrighty, here we have it, guys. Start counting our FPS. There we go, all good. Just below 60 FPS sometimes while seeing all of these cars on screen. Still very smooth and very playable, of course. And yeah, it's going to be a smooth experience. This is the big city where we were before. So maybe those little stutters that happened there was just because it was the first time loading the city, you know? But yeah, since we've been here already and we already loaded the city before, I think it's now smooth. I haven't seen a single stutter yet, actually, in the city area. That's really good. It makes sense because, again, it isn't running out of RAM or VRAM anymore, so maybe those little stutters that we saw were not related to the memory at all, and it was just loading things. I think that's what happened there. If I go to the city again, the second time around, it's probably going to be a smooth and flat frame time graph all the way through, so we definitely need to try that after I finish this. if I finish this. Actually, you know what? Maybe I won't finish this. No, this is exactly the road that I take usually. So, hey, at least we can see it. Yeah, no stutters, as you can see. No problems. Maybe it's not the road that I take, but okay. It's close enough. It's close enough. So yeah, again, it's a bit of a shame that you need to drop the textures, which are an important factor of the visual quality of the game. You know, it looks way better with high textures than it does on medium textures. But it's not the end of the world, because you're also playing on a small display at the same time. So there's that. We're gonna go through the city again, okay, outside of a race. Here we are, getting 60s. Again, like having more cars on screen is a little bit more intensive, just slightly more intensive than this, so it was dropping into the 50s sometimes. But not a problem. Again, on a small display like this, it feels just fine, even with drops into the 50s from time to time. And yeah, it was a much smoother experience without major stutters this time around going through the city. So yeah, it was just loading the first time. Okay, now what I've done is set it to 15 watts performance mode, and yes, it says desempenho right there because it's in Portuguese. I am Portuguese, okay, but this is the 15 watt mode. You can see that the CPU is now locked to 15 watts under the utilization and temperature right there. And yeah, we're still in the city. It's night time this time around though, which differs a little bit in FPS to daytime. So what I'm gonna end up doing is playing the other race that happens during the day. And now we're having a few more stutters, as you can see in that frame time graph, guys. Sometimes it stutters a little bit. So I guess 15 watts, yep, there we go, right there. At 15 watts, that will happen a little bit more often than at 30 watts. I guess you could mitigate that if you locked it to like 40 FPS or 35, maybe 30 FPS as well, and then it will be a really smooth experience without any stuttering issues. But let's see it during the race. I'm noticing right away that this loading screen is taking way longer to load the actual race than previously. I've been here for like 30 seconds or more actually at this point. Okay, here we go, my friends. I changed the car this time. Ooh, look at that stutter, guys. Ooh, so that's not related to the memory anymore. It's just the speed of the system is not enough anymore to play this game stutter-free, apparently. That's a little bit terrible. At least it's stabilized now, like the frame time is not stuttery anymore, but the 1% lows suffered a lot with that, unfortunately. Maybe they'll go back in just a little bit as we start playing more and more, of course. Come on, okay, there we go. You know, I'm just gonna restart the counting system right here, so the 1% lows aren't absolutely terrible, like at the beginning. God, okay. Okay, I didn't go through the checkpoint. Are you serious? Yeah, look at that. I didn't. I actually didn't. There we go. Much better this time. Oh no, we lost our spoiler. Yes, that's the name of that thing. Yeah, god damn it. Now it doesn't look like the M3 from Most Wanted 2005. The best Most Wanted game, you know? Not bad, not gonna lie. This is better than I was expecting. It seems like it only stuttered at the beginning, and now it has loaded everything that there was to load, maybe, and it's fine. Or maybe it's because we're not seeing any more cars on screen because we're so far ahead, because I'm such a good driver, right? Let's wait for them then. There we go. Yeah, we got a bunch of cars on front, and yep, still not stuttering, guys. It's absolutely fine. 40s, all right. You know, so it's still playable. And I mean, even if you do get a little bit of stuttering outside of races like these, you can mitigate that again by locking the FPS. Oh, we got a wheel spin. Oh my god, 250k. That's amazing. That's one of the best things that you can get there, right? Over here at night, looking really good still with all of the lights. Essentially, we're still playing on high settings, so of course it still looks good, right? It's just the textures that are on medium. And everything is fine with 15 watts. That's pretty impressive. That's really good efficiency as well. It's impressive. It's very impressive to have this kind of performance in a AAA title that looks this good on a handheld device. Kind of crazy, guys. Again, it's way better than the Steam Deck was when I tested that one as well. I want to check this out now with the 10 watts. Silent mode, 10 watts. Okay, now it just breaks everything. So obviously you don't want to play AAA titles, no matter how well optimized they are, at 10 watts. Oh my god, the textures are disappearing. The road textures disappeared for a second right there. Now we're actually having a CPU bottleneck. GPU usage isn't maxed out. CPU usage is also not maxed out, but that's because we have 8 cores and 16 threads on this thing, the Z1 Extreme, and it just doesn't really max that out. It can't really fully utilize all of those threads, basically. But the clock speed on the CPU is about 800 to 900 megahertz, going to a gigahertz sometimes, but it's extremely low. So of course, even if it's using 70% of the CPU sometimes, at those clock speeds, it's way too low. It just can't keep up. It can't have a good frame rate, basically, and it can't push the GPU either. Look at this. That's actually really funny, guys. Okay, so the workaround here would be playing on low settings, like lowest settings possible, but that looks really rough in this title, so I wouldn't do this. Just play on performance mode. It works absolutely fine, as you saw. There's no point in us dropping the settings. Or if you lock the FPS to like 15, it would prevent the map from disappearing, but what's the point, right? Yeah, it's not going to be playable at 15 frames per second. And even on the lowest settings possible, since this is CPU bound at this point, it wouldn't give you that many more FPS. Expect like 3 to 5 at best. So it wouldn't be enough to make it 30 FPS even. So yeah, that's been it for this video, guys. You can certainly play Forza Horizon 5 with a couple of changes to the settings on the Asus ROG Ally, and it's gonna be a really nice experience and very impressive one at the same time. Thanks very much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one very soon. As always, love you all. Bye-bye. By the way, this is the ROG Ally. It's just a skin that I have over here, like a little case for it, actually, as you can see. Catch you in the next one.